I want to talk a bit about how we're going to approach Confucius. I want to talk about Confucius in context. Now, that's a choice. I'm thinking of Confucius as somebody who lived in a certain place and time, who's responding to events as he perceives events, rather than Confucius purely as a philosopher. Confucius is living in a time when states are competing for wealth and power. There's a switch now from the charioteering of the nobility as a form of warfare to infantry with iron weapons. States need revenues to pay for large armies. They are competing for power with each other. And they're beginning to employ specialists, low-level nobility who no longer have a job and who become literate and can work as retainers for the powerful. The Chinese word for this is shi, and it's a word we'll be coming back to a number of times. Confucius is one of these professional administrator class people, but he begins as a somewhat marginal figure. He's orphaned when young. He doesn't have powerful relatives to get him into high position. He could have become a military officer. He could have made a career as an administrator, a ritual specialist. There are all sorts of things he could have done. And he chooses to do none of them. He chooses instead to devote his life for learning. As he says in the Analects, when I was 15, I made my commitment to learning. And the kind of learning he devotes himself to is the useless kind of learning. He has no skills to offer. He's not going to make people rich or powerful. He says, at one point, he says, the learning of antiquity was for oneself. The problem today is that the learning of today is to please others. The kind of learning he's interested in is the learning for oneself. Confucius is also loyal to the Zhou dynasty. He's living in 6th century BC. The Zhou king is very weak. He's loyal to the Zhou king. He sees that, the founding of the Zhou dynasty, as a source of models. He worries that he hasn't dreamt of the Duke of Zhou, the early regent of the Zhou dynasty. He dreams of the Duke of Zhou. He dreams of the Zhou dynasty.